Nostradamus, the Joker of humanity and potentially the strongest remaining fighter in the series. Kintoki, friend of Buddha who has been providing many reveals recently in the story. Simo, the White Death, Bro still hasn't appeared officially in the story. And Rasputin. We don't even have Bro's design, but still top of the verse. We do have potentially one more fighter for humanity I'll cover throughout and go into more detail later, but these are the remaining fighters pushing for the survival of humanity to face the final gods in Ragnarok. Today I'll be going over everything we currently know about each of them, what they've done in the story, and of course what's coming for them in the future of the manga. Some already have a major role in the current ongoing story and have been pushing the broader narrative forward. For example, let's take Kintoki. He was introduced in chapter 65 right after Huang defeated the mighty Hades, approaching an injured Buddha, with it seeming like they are very close with one another, so much so that Buddha requests to Kintoki to look into something for him, and without question or insight to what it is, Kintoki accepted with a smile. Buddha wanted Kintoki to look into the man who will shake up Ragnarok, the dragon-slaying hero Siegfried. This is where we found out that Siegfried has been locked up in Tartarus thanks to Kintoki for some time, and that he's the boyfriend of Brunhilde, all being revealed in chapter 77. Then in chapter 85, we got more revealed by Buddha that of course came from Kintoki. First is that Siegfried was locked in Tartarus due to Odin's orders. And then in chapter 88, we get to see Kintoki again with some very interesting stuff to talk about. During all the reveals about the primordial gods, Odin's plan, with Odin attempting to take out Buddha and Beelzebub, we had Thor appear and actually stop them from fighting. Then we had Adamas and of course Kintoki arriving as well, who looks somewhat injured to a degree, with Buddha also claiming that he really never stopped moving. Kintoki has definitely been on the grind, giving us a panel of Kintoki and Odin doing a stare off, or at the very least Odin giving him this menacing look, probably due to Kintoki finding out all this information about Siegfried and what he's been doing that I'll go over soon. But this has led many people to think that this is foreshadowing for the future fight in Ragnarok, Odin vs Kintoki, which could be a possibility, and I will be discussing the final matchups later in this video. But apart from that, we learned that Kintoki did go to the underworld, which we don't know is kinda taboo and is something that only the chief gods should be doing, going through the different realms, which begs the question of Kintoki's design. It's very clear that he isn't fully human, or at least has some animalistic or demon-like traits, which could be used to explain how Kintoki was able to do this, but being fair, we've had many characters travel through the realms without much difficulty, so it's probably just a, formality that isn't really followed to a degree, with Kintoki probably having his ways. But we learned that he actually went to Tartarus, and potentially had a clash with the guards of Tartarus, wanting to of course make contact with the prisoner Siegfried. However, he failed in this regard, claiming that the guards of Tartarus are demonically tough, which is pretty interesting, and doesn't really seem to be interested in continuing down this pursuit of breaking into Tartarus, or at least making contact with Siegfried in any way, potentially due to doing too much. However, based on Buddha's reaction, Buddha's character, he's probably going to persuade Kintoki for both of them to go down, break into Tartarus at some point in the future. That's just my theory based on this panel here in the most recent chapter. Apart from all that, it's important to note that Kintoki is the last remaining Japanese fighter in the Ragnarok story, at least officially confirmed, with the real world lore about him connecting him to being a pretty much hero from the past that had this superhuman strength, with some things connecting him to demons what I could find, but I'm not that knowledgeable, and the research that I could find that is more agreed on isn't all there. So if you have more insight, let me know down in the comments about the real world history or lore about Kintoki. But his involvement in Ragnarok is greatly important, and we do have potential fights that I'll go over later. Speaking of Tartarus and of course a main fighter remaining, we have Michel Nostradamus to talk about. He was introduced in chapter 55, Something that should have been in the final episode of the previous season, the moment where Brunhilde chose Huang as the opponent for Hades, but seems like the placement has been changed somewhat, so most likely episode 1 of season 3. Regardless, it set up Nostradamus as possibly having the ability to transform into others, similar to Loki you could say, but this may not exactly be the case as he could have just been dressing up. However, the similarity to Brunhilde in the initial panel does leave us questioning that aspect. He's known for his pranks, right away claiming that the gods will win Ragnarok. If you don't know, Nostradamus in the real world is known for his various prophecies, likewise in Ragnarok, but more so just making jokes about it. He's considered the most obnoxious man in all human history, and is claimed by Brunhilde as someone who is really strong. So much so, Brunhilde considers him humanity's Joker, a very important claim, and the lore about him within the series is that he was sent to Helheim and of course Tartarus by the gods after he destroyed the Bifrost. The Bifrost was a gate that connected the three realms, something that's only meant to be used by the chief gods, and Nostradamus just outright destroyed it for the following reason. Just curious of what would happen. He is the only human to be sent to the prison of the gods, which of course speaks to how strong he is. However, Brunhilde claims he could also break out at any time, not really needing the whole Record of Ragnarok tournament to be released, even if it took killing the gods as claimed. Remember the ones Kintoki considered insanely tough? It seems like there will be no trouble for the likes of Nostradamus. It's clear that he's being saved for a specific opponent, as Brunhilde claimed right as round 7 was starting that his turn is a long way off, not getting the chance currently in the story as we're in round 10 now. Outside of that, we've just seen him chilling watching the various fights since, being impressed most of the time during the Beelzebub and Tesla fight, particularly when Beelzebub used Chaos, a move that in my opinion is the top 3 strongest in all Record of Ragnarok without a doubt, providing us with more insight that Nostradamus is definitely a top tier, and perhaps is somewhat different to all the other humans outside of Adam due to his connection to the gods and not really seeming like the regular human, so without a doubt we have much more to be revealed about him in the future of the story. Additionally, he also got his own bonus chapter around a year ago. This chapter isn't too important and more so focused on Nostradamus looking around and seeing what all the surviving humans and gods are doing while watching the fights, just having a fun time, being of course excited for his turn as well. Simo still has not appeared or been mentioned in the series yet, only his name shown in this one panel when Brunhilde was deciding who to pick for round 10. This is very shocking considering that the authors revealed his design on Twitter early in the series after he won the vote for his reveal. This vote was with I believe all the humans, with Huang and Simo winning it, demonstrating how even the Japanese fandom were beyond excited for him in the story, and even more so with the entire global fanbase now. Perhaps the authors are just saving him for something big now. Rasputin has even less. Once again, that one panel where he's mentioned alongside Simo, and I guess another one where we see his real life design depicted somewhat, but this doesn't really count if I'm being honest. He's the only fighter from the original fighter list we got at the start, or even the updated one, that has not been revealed in the story yet. I'm truly being punished for my original video 3 years ago at this point. And as previously mentioned, we also have Siegfried, who yes is a demigod part of the Norse pantheon, but the way it looks like he's being set up in the story, he's most likely going to fight for humanity, or perhaps after the tournament with the whole primordial god stuff with Odin. Honestly, anything can happen at this point, but we're definitely going to see him fight someone at some point. That's pretty much the extent that we know currently. Now let's take the list after Buddha's betrayal and Hades being added to go over the possible final matchups. We still have one extra human on the roster, but Odin vs Nostradamus is very possible as potentially the strongest fighters remaining on both sides. Rasputin vs Anubis is something that's being predicted since the very beginning. However, with the recent reveals about Anubis and his personality, that belief is kinda dying down somewhat. Simo vs Anubis, the White Death versus the God of Death, That could be pretty cool. Loki vs Nostradamus, due to both of them being, I guess, similar build, having potentially a similar ability to transform is something that could happen. Simo vs Odin is something a lot of people in the fandom want. We even have fan art depicting this matchup. Kintoki vs Odin with this, I guess, foreshadowing. Kintoki vs Loki, as Kintoki is Buddha's friend, and Loki of course had a previous exchange with Buddha and has been very involved in the story of recent, like Kintoki, so this could be pretty interesting. But for now, my guess is Rasputin vs Anubis, the next fight, round 11, Simo vs Loki, and then technically the final official fight, Nostradamus vs Odin, where we have Kintoki doing other stuff, and then Siegfried vs Odin, who's amped by the primordial gods or fighting the primordial gods in some way. This is of course without going insane into further theories like more gods being added to the roster, Zeus maybe fighting again, or other stuff. Of course, let me know what you think is going to happen down below. And of course, this video on screen now will probably be enjoyable, so perhaps check that out. Shout out to the Mad Lads, the members. You can become one as well and get access to various additional content. But that's it guys, peace.